This is Chariot TV.
Yes, this is Chariot TV, and today is Wednesday, and we use this time to take questions and try to go into the scriptures to answer those questions live. And so, if you're joining us, this is a live episode, a live Q&A on Chariot TV. My name is Shadrach Opong, and I have in the studio with me Jonathan Mensah Bonsu. And we thank the Lord for that opportunity. We know that it is a great day to come back to you and open the scriptures with you. Na wabo modena washe dwumadie no na yenyina yetumi esua bibri edi efremo intino odofo awhwen and then like I say bantam kra mvanche na yaba no so de yaba comment from highest a year motivational. Say good evening to you all, brethren. I'll say New King James Version for I determined not to know anything among you except Jesus Christ and Him crucified. Yes, I believe that's the same determination we have, not to say anything or share any opinions, but to know the Lord Jesus and preach about His word. Patrick Keabe to highlight and afe or change or Kentampo, a Church of Christ in T. Okay, so what target Kentampo Church of Christ TV and afe Chariot TV. Jonathan Ewufianum, Joe. Now I want to say.
I'm not the moon, I'll say.
Me want to say, bende yesha. And then the Kenyama.
We are sending a crack binanka, bass net trader. That's so. Yamyadum, yawa.
Yaba. Question be pejanimu last week. And said this week no yabesha say ede every honomo nama ye to me a yin se misa hodo no busum ho ede amay o sakwana.
Okay, last week no my men fa kunya is na me chia do for say dan den no mo gibre na omuni ye ishia o Chariot TV di so na ishia ya pense trense o sa kwan so enti ya da wase o sa kwan so. Last week a question I show up was a subject regarding 1 Corinthians chapter 11. And the question is that was the crux of the question. He was saying that what does 1 Corinthians chapter 11 means? And what's ana oniano ASA obusaye. But first of all, my main can say na yeshase in the problem I've seen with people trying to explain 1 Corinthians 11 sometimes come from translation. So because yeah kind Bible no, for instance, for English translation on Chariot TV, we read English translations. Kind Bible in English, we need to get a very good translation of the English to begin with, to be able to make sense of what is being discussed in a passage. So translation now what kind of any accurate or not accurate translation, it sometimes it will mislead you. Not even sometimes it will mislead you to think that it is talking about something other than this. So that is the first point of contact. Say at the function and so say for the sometimes most cases in the problem and any power or 1 Corinthians 11 comes from the translation that the person is actually reading from. It may encourage you there. There are several translations like NIV, NKJV, whatever. But King James translation does something which is commendable. King James, you know.
Can King James can there he?
They can be King James. You mean
okay old? For an old King James.
Yeah, the old King James. Not
King James. Can't both.
They can't King James. King James and authorized one.
Okay.
The authorized old King James.
Old King James. You
know. Exactly. They're friend old King James. You know. And we are only a copy of the old King James. I have about 2 or 3 copies in there. Sometimes I refer to them. One of the things, though they have several generations, I must say this, also generations, but all of them seems to do the work. One of the things I recommend about that translation is anytime the translator is inserting a word or the kasebi shemu actually be biasia or no akachiro or kachiro says sadia medishemi mia na medishem sene beya ebi ebeboa wonti ase, and that is good. New King James no nyenesa NIV nyenesa all the translations I am aware of, you know, they don't do that. So most cases, you know, you tend to be reading the Bible, but you'll be reading the translator's interjections. So the translator and that is something helpful. The person at the fortune. So for us to get 1 Corinthians 11 properly and understand what is going on, I suggest that the person read it from a King James translation. And see, Abraham will read it from King James translation. Then he will be noticing the words that the translator is adding, so that he can take it off and see if he reads it in English, you understand what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
And to set the background of 1 Corinthians chapter 11, you go back trying to look at a good view of what is happening in 1 Corinthians. You recognize that 1 Corinthians, Paul was dealing with several problems that had gotten to him. I think in Macedonia, where he was in Macedonia, had gotten to him from Ubia, Ufri, Unya baby, a friend of Clue, Ifi, Anna Ufri ho, and they are called Macedonia, and I'll report to my Paul the problem that they are facing. They had problems with division. That people were saying that I belong to this fashion, they offend fashionism or partyism. No? They had problems with that. So in 1 Corinthians 1, 1 Corinthians 2, 1 Corinthians 3, and even verse 4, Paul set out to address the problem, trying to point out that Christo mu yem papa mu. So you realize in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 10, Okasa say Christo mu papa mu na Paul no bon ma, discussing all these things, trying to show that we are one body in Christ. Odu chapter 5, no, then he addressed a specific problem. It was reported to him, and in fact, okay, say this is what is happening in the churches. But he's still in the church, and the church are glorifying it, and he addressed that problem extensively. Chapter 6, he addressed another problem. What problem? The problem said there were people, there were brethren, matter that can be settled by brethren, and you're not betting at Nasia Kana, Semnesino. Now, I must be not the call as a year. Now, Wakotinasida, or Pese Odi as a year or as a year. And that's Paul extensively discussed that. In chapter 7, there was a problem Yanum was facing. There were members that Omo spouse, so Bema and Yeri, any Christoni, or your Banswa, Nikun, any Christoni. And the question that they were arising was bothering their mind was that what is the status of Accra? Accra, what is the status? Is it clean or unclean? And what if Nipanwa onyo Christo didn't say Jaibedi Mechi Nefsum Jai Christo Sumedi Mechia? What would you have to do? So Paul addressed that in 1 Corinthians chapter 7 extensively.
Joe, that's baby, yeah. The yeah, about a bit rich, say, I said, every chapter piano, or some of Paul, Eddie Yins and Bisabi, and that's how be a course of current as a Fudumu, ano.
Yes, yes, essentially, yeah. Or the yin sim wisa or mumu and one of the ways I would be and say or shall say no a cassette now concerning. So that in verse number chapter 7, verse 1, or say now concerning the things wherefore you wrote to me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. That's a much or mubusan so Clopino or back Clopio your bahono. He came with his things he had seen in Corinth. Aside that, possibly maybe on one kasa and Corinth upon the small will be full. But they also sent to Paul a list of problems that they are facing. So
it was addressing in this letter.
Good. The one that Corinth upon kasa the Sunday is a Paul answer or counts no. Now if I the much mubusa me and I watch your brain no. This is it. This is the answer. Then he answers. And in fact, he also added even things that added, not only the problem that we're facing, he also discussed extensively a Christopher what currently so it's not essentially only problems and all discuss it. So that is how
and of problem back so all discuss here. And never be okra mumusaya or the can't chirimu because
exactly yes some of these things are not all kind of so that is what was going on in chapter 8. He discusses a subject that borders with eating of meat offered to idols. You see, about for the as in Bisa. So they were struggling among the Corinthians because Corinth was a city that had idols. About some idols, some kronimu or aforibuchia for who do we bring kronimu. Now, one more some bosom pagans no. Or more fat nianibi send ye tete bemune kunkra abosom some hono or food to be ne janibi abosom bianibi de kusi abosom. And there were brethren who was struggling with this to the extent that they saw other brethren say, well, they were participating in it. Some of them were participating by offering idols and things, food to idols, and some of them too, they were eating the food that was given to the idols. And Paul has to discuss all those things extensively, trying to show to them that, well, first of all, an idol is nothing. There's nothing like so he discussed those things extensively in chapter 8, trying to show the liberty. And in chapter 9, Paul set out his issue of defending his apostleship. There were people who were going around saying that, well, Paul Cornell smart for if it was any smart for Peter. So Paul set out to discuss those things. In chapter 10, Paul took the Corinthians, Israel for any new maybe also Musia through Sani omunso man konkodo abosomsom sani wonso kondo ye na Nyankopon ese won na owu ye no. So Paul discussed all those things chapter 10 chapter 10 but I like something which I want to read from verse 29 of chapter 10. I say, conscience I say not my own but of the others, for why is my liberty judged by another man's conscience? So he's talking about the liberties we have and not to use the liberty we have to infringe on another man's conscience. So he discussed all those things concerning a journey. And in verse 32 all kind, or seeking no offense neither to the Jew nor to the Greek nor to the church of God, even as I please all men for things, not seeking my own profit, but the profit of many, that I may save some. So the crux of it, and say, in our exercise of our liberties, we should be careful not to be stumbling block. A coincidium afofro be one why my memory one hour do for anyone so we should be careful with even things that we have liberties on, that we do not exercise we do not offer what do you call stumbling block to the brethren there. In chapter 11, the problem Paul is discussing, there was a problem with headship. And that is key for us to understand. Paul is not just discussing head covering per se, but the head covering is tied to headship. Because the headship, what I mean is this: the authority. On say if you your bema, right? Your bema and your oba, papa and mommy. They say papa no and the inferiority. So when I say headship, that's what I mean. Chain of authority. Papa and the inferiority. Na mommy name of frano. Na omunity papa no. I mean, we still have that problem still running through today. There are people who rise and say that, well, they're feminist movement, movement, they are all still there. There were problems like that. And Paul is trying to address that problem. But what was specific in that instance? You see, feminism, they are not concerned about head covering. Feminism is not concerned about even dressing and stuff like that. Back then in Corinth, the problem was related to how to distinguish between a man and a woman. Sebastian, that's what the bitch is here.
Yeah.
How to distinguish between a man and a woman. And look at how Paul started the idea. Chapter 11, verse 1. Or see, be ye followers of me, even as I am also of Christ. I say, now I praise you, brethren, that ye remember me in all things and keep the ordinance as I delivered to you. You see, my King James, added the word them. So I'll be showing you what is being added and what's not being added. Or say, now I praise you, brethren, that ye remember me in all things and keep the ordinances as I delivered to you. But my King James will say, as I delivered them to you. Okay. It doesn't make much of a difference, but the idea is that Paul has already given them instructions, some ways to do, some things to do. You say now,
let me me establish say I am say walking a very, very critical thing. A boss open Bible ye now tia now King James version no so supply Casanova or supply Bibia or put it into italic. Into say oh kind King James know who italic a year a quote young quote 2 year just say or quote to free old King James and also so or yeah italics I just wanted to supply.
You mean Okotu from Old Testament? Okay.
Okotu from Old Testament.
Boga, would you say that and now this is the
Okotu from Old Testament? Oh yeah, and also italic. So far, Old King James now can now who down there. Like I mean, there are other things they become with you, but they are not relevant now. Twaso.
So that is the first thing that we realize, that Paul is saying that, well, I've delivered unto you some ordinances. Then the verse 3 they say, but I will have you know when I'm a person. So that is the crux of the entire chapter. The crux of the entire chapter is in verse 3. Or say, but I will have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of every woman is man. And the head of Christ is God. He's not talking about the literal head. He's talking about authority.
Yeah.
Authority. That we shouldn't breach that authority. There are several ways that possibly we can breach that authority. For instance, with fear moon, you acquire or barbie, are you separate that authority, trying to breach that authority in a house by trying to do what the man wants, the man's role, or not try to take it up and say that no, or no, we are trying to usurp that authority, to breach that chain of authority that has been established by God. So Paul is clear that the chain of authority, it starts with God, then it comes down to Christ, then it comes down to man, then it comes down to woman. And that is the key idea or the central message of chapter 11. 1 Corinthians 11. So you will say, what's the central message of 1 Corinthians 11 is in verse 3. But I will have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. Odu verse 4, as some kind, verse 4 says, every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonors his head. Every man. So his head covered, no, dishonors his head. He's not talking about his literal head, but his so, yes, so good. Exactly. So he's using head as in physical head, this head, and figurative head as in chain of authority in the context, trying to alternate it. So one of the differences, also, one of the issues also is that you should be able to distinguish between that head where is he talking about literal head, or head way is he talking about figurative or chain of authority? Minimum, I say if the measure,
because Obe mentioned physical head. It is one to say head we are seeing now what you say physical head and all kind of heart. Then it do also to not make sense in your explanation.
So the text says that every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered. But the phrase having his head covered, three words in Greek, which literally means having down upon the head. Having down upon the head. The problem, I'll continue the text, but let me supply in a problem that we have been doing in a church. Sometimes when we are teaching this thing, we read verse 4, then quickly we go to verse 15 to try and find out what he's talking about head in there. So what did the teacher say? So yes, you can't having his head covered, Then we ask ourselves, covered way, what does it mean? Then we go to verse 15, say, but verse 15 say, but a woman having a long hair, it is a glory to her, for her hair is given for her as for a covering. Then we think, okay, then the covering is talking about from verse 4, hair.
Yeah.
That is how we anticipate, or we clarify that.
We supply that your friend is saying that idea from 15 here.
Yes, but the problem with it is this. First off, there are two problems. One of them is in the text. You see it as we go along. You see that. The second problem is that from verse 4 back to verse 14. Verse 14. Verse 14. The word covering appear is different from the word covering in verse 15.
Yeah, in the Greek.
In the Greek language.
Yeah.
You see, the day America said, they say years of sitting down with these things and being discussed in Bible class, it never came up. Because most people who were teaching us from an English text. A text no can't English, they cover. You might be thinking that, okay, cover. But for the purpose of our learning, Bashadrak, I think it's worth showing that to our viewers. Maybe if you can read comments, but as I try pulling out the text.
Yes, I will do that. I was a live Q&A on Chariot TV. Yeah, sad addition we a bad and saying you could do home come baby, and I saw baby and yeah, two of us the actually we have some pakani na utie ya, but my day say also be foul chrono now. And they first know you can Greek na you know say you know baby I just occupied no baby say ultimate such a cry.
Yes,
the Greek text for 1 Corinthians obey to me impo at the amount and as we use blue letter Bible Joe, Blue Letter Bible, it to me a cultural amount the Greek side of our seminal input it say we will be a Blue Letter Bible phone so
and me pese issue.
Okay.
So Blue Letter Bible no. Blue Letter Bible it's even online. Minim say when you were there.
Well, Nami shown to Hamau. Now, Blue Letter Bible, no, a bit to me, I'm the exact way. A friend is saying, Greek, the Greek ne ekan into any, into unya ne say, upe Greek na no one say ube right click, or right click text in so na fe no, wa pick it, ne say interliner, then I'm aware verse 2 no into the end and now open verse 7
verse 4
into all right click verse 4 no I interline and a concordance now a pulley amount say into the now open a covered
where's the word
kata
opinie no
okay, sorry. I'm say remember back at Dimba. I mean open say let me see if I can do that. I'm say you I don't know.
Median what then online and I say
there be a app into the area. We online.
The online number. Just give me an enemy. Okay, I'm handy. But you didn't feel so. Family didn't good. How do you see it, my day?
Yeah, it is Zoom the no so kakra.
So media no means 2 million kakra.
Yeah.
Good. So we are 1 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 1. Oko nim kakra. We are saying for the kakra ko nim. We are verse 2, verse 3 ni. Verse 3 ni. Verse 4. Verse 4 no. Verse 4 na me here. Verse 4. Verse 4 good. This verse 4. And if you look at verse 4 any the word covered is this word. Have something on his head. Who has no? I just want the covering. No, it's not this word. It's a past. Okay. Maybe. Is this word? No.
Then I say pay.
Maybe 5. They say I'm looking for a word in good. This word.
Uncovered now verse we know.
Maybe covered the crown, not uncovered. Where is it verse? So here with this one. So meaning so who are we? We are verse chapter 11 verse 5, right?
Yes.
The word uncovered is this word, akata calypto. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Good. So akatalupto no, it's the word akata on no. Into the word covered no. Actually is katalupto katakalupto is katakalupto. This word katakalupto. In fact, check it will give you the word. Let me see. Yes, is this word akata? Is it with the a no? Akataluptos. You see the word that make them good.
Yeah.
So it occurs. That word occurs 5 times in the text from chapter 5, from verse 5 to verse 13. Basa to verse 30. But Odru verse 15, then he used a different word. This verse 15. I'm had it. 1 Corinthians 11 verse 15. Look at it. Udru 1 Corinthians 11 verse 15. Then he used a different word. Use a different word. Good.
15 in show how many?
Maybe show interlinear and good. So Udru verse 15. Abra oka covering. This is the word. This is the word.
So now in show what? Aha.
In show aha.
So let me put it back. Still now in the show. Verse 5 now in the show.
Okay. It show her.
So you have to close it and bring it back.
Okay. Maybe. Now I can't. Maybe I can show it again. Just give me a minute. Let me show. Yes. Now I have it. Can you see it?
Yes.
You see the word. But couldn't hear katakaluktu.
Yeah.
But this word is peribaruline. Oh, that PERIBOLAION. That word. This is completely different from the word.
Yeah.
Yes, completely different from the word kataluktu, which has been already been showing.
It's the first thing I do. Say Obi Awusiamba. Sorry, and say so who say where do you see at the car same be or sort of was some word no so different Greek word translation no English no ebe ma na twi no be ma asem krono but I say busa won say I didn't the Greek no and you so asem krono no you so kasa foforo de ka.
Yes,
and no one is enough for you to investigate into the issue. That is something I'm saying.
So my point is that from verse 3 to verse 13, covering, covered. Maku 5. All of them, he used the katakaluktus and as a word 5 times in there. But through verse 15, the covering there is a different word from the word that he has already used in the text, trying to suggest to you something. But let's go back. So that's the first issue. The person will share that text. We'll go back to verse 5 or say, but every woman that prayed or prophesied with her head uncovered dishonors her head. So we have noticed that we have hair, which is uncovered, and her head, which is authority, which is in this case is the man. So the oba onkata ni trisuono or odi ni trini, the only trini, which in other words, the tree in the second one is the man. Very good, perfect. So he says that for every woman that prayed, verse 5, or prophesied with the head uncovered, dishonored her head. For that is even all that as if he were shaving. Or say, yeah. So the first thing that we think about is this: if the covering meant hair, why will Paul tell us that say one katani tisua etesedi wabotikwa? So what did the here?
Yeah. Say,
and I mean review.
What's it say?
So but me read the verse 5. Read the verse 5 on verse 5 on the same. But every woman that prayed or prophesied with her head uncovered. So if the uncovered there means that the training we're trying training.
Yeah.
If the head uncovered means we're trying training, I'll say, you see, dishonest her head. Fine. But what was so verse 5 now? Last line, I'll say, for that is even all one as if she were shaving. Yeah. So my point is that say covering is hair and what's up no can. And then opo esa catch will say one kata with trisua it said the wabotikwa.
Yeah.
That would have meant tautology.
Yeah, because a tikwa no chere obi a what shave it is a or can say one kata uti so it is a wabotikwa. Na etikwa no an say what shave so
what say
it is a wabotikwa.
Exactly. So my first point which we have always, I mean, I've sat in classes where we have taught that we have been.
And I think over the years we kind of run between this verse and the verse 15 to say so one who saw say it is wabotikwa into the manasakata. So, but we have not really analyzed the sentence carefully.
Yes, that's the point. Because you drew verse 4, but then you jump to verse 15 and make conclusion that well, the covering there is long hair, but that's not the idea. That's not the idea at all. Paul say one katani trisua et say wabotikwa. So the question is that say one katani tisuno say waka ochani tinia. Then why will Paul say et say wabotikwa? They are not the same thing. In other words, the Paul person say the covering in verse 4 has something to do with artificial covering, not a natural hair, a veil or sort of that was on the woman's head.
So the fundamental thing is establish what Hannah say. Sa oba obompaya on kata ni triso no. Sa on kata ni triso na wo ho no has to do with a veil ankasa.
A veil, exactly. Now, Paul actually say one if you don't put on the veil, it is like you have cut your hair. That's the idea. Or do verse 6, verse 6 for if the woman be not covered, which I am telling us that the covering there means veil, let her also be shorn. Why will you add also to the text when they are the same thing?
For if the woman be not covered, which is the kataka loopstone,
exactly.
Let her also be shorn, and this shorn na wohono. The Greek, to shear.
To shear, uchicha.
Yeah.
Not even only the thing you man can it you. You might be thinking that on can it was shorn cut to share.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So the point is that Paul say oba yes say on kata ni trisua. Any manin chani trinsue. Do you get the point? Now to ask verse 6 now. But if yes, verse 6. Mama 12 verse 6 or say but verse 6 say, but if it be a shame for a woman to be shorn, that is alternate or shaving, let her be covered.
It is a office a first and the TV no be so.
Yes.
And
yes.
Now there's a question here. And yet from the comment, but there's a question from the analysis now you're making. We just want people to understand what we are doing. Now, Joe, the question is why would Paul even bring the idea of shame? Why the idea of shame? I'm just trying to supply something so that before you continue, the idea of shame, sa abosonsam na uma udi kan ekan no. Ye wo ma na omoko Aphrodite and Aphrodite your friends a temple ho na omu yi omu tiri kwakwa omu ase ho na omu address it to say your friends a prostitute, and they do that so that womo eba every temple no epia obia behu say womo ye prostitute na no na sa woni sa oba we bi ekoda, then you pay money to Aphrodite bosomba no into no Osman Paul say one person obey Christian, and it was a shameful thing because they were sleeping even outside. Abontenkra no more. ubi ekunu kra ubi yere kra na enam so wabo ni tiri ho no ye no ho science no na afoforo emema afoforo ne omo ye dey da shamefully. It was one of Paul say o oba eye ofere se obabo utiri ho na mana ye te say o kan ma na omo ye sa na ma no ho de a ene cover uti.
Exactly.
Say one ko ba uti de a ene te say de waboti kwa. I think I just wanted to supply that part for you to continue.
Exactly. To asumame. Let me missing to asumame.
The verse,
verse 7. Look at verse 7. Will say, for a man in need not to cover his head. A man need not to cover his head. That's just a minute.
Verb na eno yisu aha. For a man not to cover his head, no. The same word kataka lupto, which means to cover wholly, and I say to veil. Into Confrontia said the angle Jonathan is coming from, and that's what we are saying. Say Osha word na the text and then I'm highlighting the amount. So I hear cover no about the Greek and then the one I say no. She said the verb is saying to cover wholly. It is a very say wo no wo obenya ubebo tron kukwa ase wo ho na wa ye te say Aphrodite man no a ene cover it. Then he comes to the verse 6, tell Jonathan etwe and adwen edi asiso no. And also, for a man indeed ought not to cover his head, for as much as he is the image and glory of God, but the woman is the glory of the man. It is I had no just Osman for Paul say Obama dear and sese odi bibi ekata nitreso. The same verb na ekata nitreso, and I know there's a verb we kata utreso with a veil inti entoma aye de kata itreso and aduko de kata itreso ho asam no oka. So we shouldn't always try to negate that portion. And I say, Mummy, ye honor from say veil now, a honor name a veil and pa, it was a veil. It was a veil. We are not suggesting, we are not suggesting say Obi class a year, Obi bar, sorry, Omuduku. That's not what we are saying. We are trying to explain the text, The text and then they say, Kasa or the can or 1 Corinthians 11, Oka say so kata ni triso no. Entuma nkasa de kata triso. It was a veil ankasa. Iti tobo ase. Ye be chire mo besi. Ya sha say nemum ye pese every verse of the text be an oti ase. It is said that Jonathan chire no. Verb no asemo a the whole chapter no so for Paul address no. Say and say Oba eji bema tumi bema animonyam bema leadership free ninsem. That's the whole thing I will deal with. And or they akofa or they akomaye. Yo eno kra beka no analogy.
Yeah.
Between a 3 year any sa ukata utriso. Now says sadly we know yo I don't want to jump the gun, but it seems like are they now addressing the people who were familiar with it?
I mean, the Corinthians,
were familiar with
it. They understand exactly what he's saying.
Because I say, it is say, na say fair say, Obabe botikwa, pension, Obasi true. I don't think say
no, it's not a problem for us. It's
because yempono yahimano ahima for no, omucha dancing cry. And no, ye who said Nana dressing the Zikra F. It's they say
Yeah.
a human for na aba no mo mpese o metwa muti no kra no. Wo mo hye eyi de kata eso. Na
Yes, almost share some sort of net bi.
net bi.
And the kata
na I said the way you train no. What I say it yen no yen pan mu no. Sa kasa we say obayi ni tire a eni nguase no. Yen na yen nguase man. It the Corinthians really understood the no can say eni nguase se oba ebebo ebetwaniti. Em say also you make it clear na
yeah, exactly. So but ukuwenim kakra, you see, the ukuwenim kakra. Or say, for a man indeed ought not to cover, verse 7. For a man indeed ought not to cover his head, which is physical head, but he ought not to cover it. Like only a Chinese animal now be good to that.
Yeah.
For as much as he is the image and the glory of God. So man is the image and the glory of God. It's worth noting here, say, I mean, Kabi, I said, now we had a discussion on another platform there. If we are asking ourselves, what is the image of man? It's not his hair. It's man, the image and the glory of God.
Yeah.
The same thing, woman is the glory of man. Obeka text in verse 7 say, but the woman is the glory of man. It's not his hair that is the glory.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you get my point?
But the woman is the glory of the man.
Of man. Good.
Okay.
Created in the image and the glory of God. The same thing, woman is the glory for the man. That is how God has placed it. Because the entire maker said, we do verse 15. We would it is verse 15. Yeah, verse 15. But if a woman has longer, it is glorying to her. Why not it glorying to the man? So it is glorying to her. Why? Because
Obema eye onyankopon ni munyam. Oba eye obema ni munyam. Ene nyi eye
oba no ani munyam. And no cry no, the Bible didn't tell us that nyankopon na the man no. The Bible didn't supply that.
I'm just trying to create that way, no.
Very good. So that is the idea. So it was until verse 7 they say, for a man indeed ought not to cover his head, which is physical head, for as much as he is the image and the glory of God. But woman is the glory of the man. That is how God has made it. Verse 8, say, for the man is not of the woman, but the woman is of the man. He's making a point. So he's bringing arguments that we have to respect that gender balance, that there's man, there's woman. The Paul say, for the man is not of the woman, but the woman is of the man. Verse 9, neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman was for the man. And that is clearly established in the book of Genesis, that man was made and woman was created for man. In other words, Eve was created for Adam.
Not Adam for Eve.
Not Adam for Eve, not the reverser. Verse 10. For this, because of that order God has made, the woman
for the is referring to the verse 9.
Good. He's offering the reason why they have to cover their head.
Okay, so neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman for the man. Good. And for this cause,
yes, he's offering the reason why. He's offering the reason for this cause. Ought the woman have to have power? The word power here is where the issue also. One of the things that issue is on this word. The word power here is the word exousia.
Exousia, yeah.
Exousia can mean authority. It can mean power, as in the power you have. Like
it can also mean will.
it can mean will or liberty.
Yeah.
The liberty.
Mm-hmm.
You get my point?
Like the liberty to do whatever you want, not freedom, keke, but liberty to kind of act.
Do the liberty to act, the will.
Yeah.
I think the word will even bring better, make the idea better.
Yeah.
He has the will to do what he said. And that is what I believe the text is implying here. He says that for the woman ought to have power or the will on her head because of angels.
Yeah.
But this is post problem. I don't want to go into details what the angels here. But the angels here, you see, the word angel here is angelos. Angelos can mean heavenly angel, heavenly messengers, or human messengers.
Yeah.
Do you get my point?
Yes, I do.
And
I think we crack handsome. Asia Hanoma, also mediator. Angelo, I know say, to bring tidings, a messenger, especially an angel, or by implication, a pastor. Which I mean, a strong.
The point
angel
is that
or messenger. Yeah.
The point is that the translators not have taken a stance on it. The translators not taking a stance. And what I mean is that the word actually is angelos, which literally means messenger. But to translate it messenger or angel, who translated the angel, that means you have taken a stance that the messenger there is a heavenly messenger.
It's a heavy,
So the text, my point is that the King James translators have taken a stance that because of angel Shahano meant that a heavenly angels.
Yeah.
Well, as I said, I don't want to go into the details of whether it is heavenly messenger or human messenger. But
whichever way you pick it, it's a messenger.
It's a messenger. Yes. Yeah. But it's a messenger. So let's move on. Verse 11 says, nevertheless, neither is the man without the woman, neither the woman without the man in the Lord. So Paul wants to be clear that the man should not be thinking that he stands alone. No, he doesn't. It's neither a man without the woman or like that. But in Christ, we need each other like that. Fine. Verse 12. For as the woman is of the man, even so the man is of the woman, but all things of God. Judge in yourself. Is it comely that a woman pray unto God uncovered? Keep in mind the word uncovered here is the same word we have been talking about from verse 4, Eba, which I'm suggesting to you that that word imply, that word is better we translate it veiled. Let's say veiled. So he's saying that judge in yourself. Is it comely? Is it comely or is it right? Verse 13, and I make it right, or is it proper that a woman pray unto God uncovered?
Uncovered, unveiled. Unveiled.
Yes, and the reason why Paul is asking for them to judge on it is simply because what he's talking about is something that is custom.
Yeah, the people knew.
Yes, something
that they should judge.
Now, why would he solicit our judgment?
The judgment
for the people on this.
Hold on there. I was about Chariot TV live Q&A. As a Musan ye catch them last week say ubi obusa a question na obusana emudo inti beto your boss na ya chirichiri mu ene inti mehu other questions aba Leroy mehu question no, so can you explain prophesying in the context of this chapter? We'll come and deal with that. But per se yet yakati etriso because yewo baby bebre ajo asem we asoja ohopen kuma asem kai soja ohopa say
asoja see so we
ebo muti ebo duku
Yeah, we instrumental music free.
Mhm.
Any missionary societies, some few things.
And
One
they
of the things that
yeah.
troubled the church is the
Head covering.
chapter head covering issue.
Yeah.
Which shouldn't have, but it has.
Yeah.
It has done that damage to us, but it's worth
it's
worth studying.
Ahano, yo, I didn't tell me can't say pause no. Me pese me disrupt the discussion. But in time pese me o pause no. Asema I want 1 Corinthians 11 no. Me feel say ahana ne pompon so ne she.
Okay.
Because Osman for Paul say, "Mo ankasa mumu aten, judge for yourself."
Yeah.
Say obi eba na say obo mpae na so nkata ni tiri so mo na mote won mu ni say.
Yes. Say for instance, Paul never sorted out. Say well, mumu aten. Be ma bo mpae ye na those things are not sorted. Nyankopon supply that.
Nyankopon supply there so supplying na e no ye generic to everybody.
Yes.
But I know on say ye then judge for yourself. Should I say more Corinthians for no make a decision on this matter?
Yes.
And they will make a decision, no, and they say, or one can say a decision or other because
yes.
Or can say judge for yourself, but you say, one would nim into one can some names are the way. And as one can some to me and who's and the cray was asking me.
A good example, Fan say Ghana away. Bema obo Pearson. See obo ma ko jina sorry na me catch out sorry for say one mumu hu aten one mo hwe say Bema wa Pearson news papa. I'm soliciting for something within their society which they already know that is not right. So to the media here.
Yeah.
Oh, this in their society they know that it's not right. So I'm asking what mo hwe Bema wabo ni hwinimu right. Right. Simply because you know that in your society that is not an acceptable norm.
Yeah. But oko society be musu so a normal say say Kenyan or I think Kenyan society be a Kenya.
Yes, yes.
And it's our society to remember all about yes, society no omubu memo mo fuso pa.
And yes, the bigger your belly, the bigger you.
The no
you can't no sad on ya, kill for more.
It basically say our society muna wujina ho kasa. Now kasa judge for yourself. Say a man on the day sad the show man no more man yes I say a bear man the ade show na no judge for yourself. That's the idea.
Yes.
Or that to say society we can say mo amun judge say obema skirt shenen munyamo na.
Yes. Exactly.
Something like that. It yeah answer the be man a rhetorical like it's a rhetorical question.
Yes, you don't even need to even answer because you know that the answer you are coming is already set. So it's not like there were different opinions in it. Yeah. It's one.
Yeah.
It's Sweden skate, so it's a skate was done there. I don't know whether you are
anybody
Sweden for is Sweden.
Sweden. Yes.
Some guy be
Scotland.
Scotland. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Or your wedding. Anna or that's hard in the suit or that suit in it wedding day no unia
nasi ampam no
man for so because I say and but in there Scotland no it's accepted.
Yeah,
it's accepted and it looked masculine. But so that is what Paul is saying, that judging yourself, is it comely or proper that a woman pray unto God uncovered? In other words, unveiled. Is it proper? That's what I'm trying to say. Verse 14. Do not even nature itself teach you Very good. Then the first thing that we have to understand is the word nature. Is the word physis. The word is physis. Well, nature does not necessarily imply the Nyankopon.
Yeah.
Nature can mean a lot of things. So first of all, I mean nature can mean intrinsic nature.
Yeah.
In other words, the Nyankopon kasa aye. Nyankopon abo. That is one usage of the word nature. So Nyankopon aye and say deep aye wona o ani mienu. O hene baako. O asu mienu. O ano baako. The eni efu oditiri ho. Like Nyankopon aye ne sa nature, that is nature. Good. But nature can also mean that what we call English language second nature. Now be a part and parcel of us.
Yeah. Yeah, our usage of something and now the constitution of something. We should have more figurative or say native disposition.
Native disposition.
Yes.
Like that. Native disposition. They say, manako.
Native disposition.
Yes. So nature does not always mean that the Nyankopon. And that is where sometimes the confusion comes in our Bible classes. We think that the word nature here meant that God has said that. No, it's not like that.
Yeah. And the society the Yajatum.
Yajatum say that is what we have accepted. That is what he's saying in verse 14. That even nature itself teaches.
Yeah.
Nature now set that restriction. In other words, Berman Kasano, so when Tautia ebefu.
Yeah.
Berman when Tautia ebefu. So you look through the Bible, we see several instances in the Bible, several people in the Bible they had long hair. Absalom is one. Samson is one. Plenty people have that. So it is not natural. It's not natural as in God.
And it was a requirement by God for Nazarenes. Almost as swear say and one of it is here Samuel.
Yes, Samuel. Yes.
Nazarene.
So the point is this. Nyankopon say you mu say Bema when 23 and the 3 not like Nyankopon in such a way that Bema 3 no, it's not.
Yeah, and Joe Yentu was the interest I didn't kakra. Say some of us have been teaching this make a home. I am not coming to deny it. Over the years, say when Nyankopon ma oba 3 bebre into oba 3 ifu eshen animonyam. But the SAT says no correct genetically a matter we more essay right? But offer oba ejinaha oba kwala and oba kra wenyini ejinaha a won trinity na fa bema won so anyini jinaha a won trinity a yo wo mu nyina ati no o mu gya no mu antwitwa ebeden.
And let me comment. Let me comment on the genetics. You see, check here. It's not only genetic. The man marry you. Women apply more hair products on their head than men. Me say that. I don't even apply pomade. But obade obeto hair cream.
Obeto
the
cream. No conditioning and the hair food.
Shampoo. Hair food.
Hair food.
It is only the food champion. It's understandable. So it's not intrinsically genetics. That's my point.
Yeah, but the point is I agree with you in a sense. You won't call me new jina hwa. What must say? Me maya mawomi. Ejebuodu ene sewa. Womo etrimin ujaya. Omu nyina etrimin bede.
Ebefu.
Enti enkoba say eje be menti ni trimin ufu. That's the one yankwana efu. Enti efi say me wo ejebuodu no. Seka manyi ni tida ebisi na. Said say wa sekan kan ni tida no a. Enka
kaniti.
Nititi says a word the pepe.
Pepe. Say you have obeche no kwa
Kakrebi. You know, yes, genetically, you know, I don't want us to
rule out. No, of course, it's part. It's part because we have different hormones, different.
Yeah, but the intent we are can say when you say, "Ebe you be because say, oh, or bad by nature no nitin we don't disagree that, but the point is say, and yes, by nature nitin we fu che mementi, and actually say, Onyankopon eche dama oba enyi so nkata nitinu say sadia ene na say oba bia no ense se yenya oba your friend say onu nitinu ntimi because man bi obutinu ya akate o
obre
say ono no Nyankopon akese na because you can say Nyankopon bless ma with 3 years na say ono no ya akese na.
So that's the point.
It doesn't mean that.
So verse 14 is trying to tell us that our society has set in boundaries. They are setting a distinction between a man and a woman. The society has set it that the woman should leave his hair and the man should cut his hair.
Yes.
So the society has set that boundary. Now hairline so we have set that boundary. They are setting boundary because of our society. They are setting that boundary like that is there. That is what verse 14 is saying. That nature itself teach you that if a man has a long hair, it is shameful to him. Why? Because the society look at those things as shameful.
Yeah, it is shameful. No, nature. Debbie, say Obama etri doors wa enumguase. And say enumguase bia. And then Yankopon adenti no person ogu Samson animu ase.
Samson animu ase. And no person ogu. Yes. Omo from that then.
Somewhere animu ase no catch up say mo muntwa omuti.
After no munyina ogu. Why would he do that?
I think over the years so the chairman would more I say to ase dey hwe ade ni. It you know. Yes, it is true say nature actually say yenye emema ni twa muti ene ma ekiputiri no na adoso amom na amom aho aye femo it no eno ye yen na ye decide yen nipa and your society no e decide say obema ntwenti na onim say ye kra ya sitram Ghana asitram no say o yo ba na akofa bema bi ba say bema we na so person ware me na no mo hwe no na wagina ne ti kuha enye se wabompo wagina obeka say e dey no akofa be oh because you understand ni say obema dey say o dey o twitwa itire sawa so na so ya bema na akofo oba bi be fie se obeware no na oba wa kokwa and you odi ekutu asra na eti shem a eno so na nanom be kasa ho iti no eye denti no mo kasa ho because eye nature ya transi yesumu na ye ya gisa ade na tum. So that's what the Bible is saying.
Yeah,
in this case the current for us and worker.
Yes, let me supply something in verse 14. So Paul was talking about veiling, veil and unveil, but Paul wants to teach us something that there are things that has been accepted in their society.
Yeah.
And he used the hair, the social distinction between long hair and short hair for men and long hair for women, to try and teach them a lesson that even the society make a distinction. Why do you want to even try to blur this distinction?
Yeah.
And that is what it's saying in verse 14. That it is Mahusio Cranch will say, and a long hair and
yep.
The reason is that the society has set that boundary to that. And all kind of verse 50 say, but if a woman has a long hair, about 2 doors one, I didn't the society have set that distinction there.
Yeah.
For her hair
is society.
Yes.
Society.
Her hair is given to her as a covering. So verse 14 and verse 15 is not a major point. Verse 14 and verse 15 is trying to show them, I didn't can veil now can want some. Itimuka society muka say a match in doors, a member charity, moon sadi, that distinction.
What would difference room? What would society no more difference room? It's
Why
the
do you
same
want
thing
to
as society no so as certain be before.
So buy a vampire on Mama
Exactly. Society no. Mumu society na certain be say say obema yeden. En say obema de veil guni triso. Demo oba de so yosa.
Yes.
But you unim the interesting part of asema yeken. Unim say Jew for men man.
Mhm.
Ebinum also almost kobo empire. Yes. So it was a cultural thing. Even Jew for no the mema cry ye no. But
yes.
the back current there.
It was
they saw mema sano as
yes. So it was a cultural thing there. It's yes. Specific to Corinth. So yes. In fact, in verse 16, Paul can say, if any man seem to be contentious, any man he's talking about is the Corinthians who are there. We have no such custom.
It is yeah, some na a woman Corinth hodo.
Yeni
eba Kristo mu a yeni sa mamre
no. Na Nyankopon asofo neither the churches of God. Nyankopon asofo no nso ni sa amane no.
Wow. It yo asem ya on say ya sabobobo asa ya koye ni ba and I am abesa your friend say back on the saying akakuma esi dwam esi on say bobobo de ya koye ni na be echi koye ni na be echi na omo follow ye no say we obi a wo follow ye de person establish ni say ye pay so Unyankopon asam nka nkyere say o ye oba na okwa asori a kata utiri so
Dabi
Unyankopon asam nka nsa intino we are not going to tell obi say Bible say kata utiri so boduku the text is not saying that
we don't have that custom
ye ni sa custom no
Ghana na say baby we say what's there
India I think some societies in India have that custom say oba cover uti say oba sorry
Saudi Arabia Saudi Arabia the woman has to veil. Yeah,
so exactly to society now they are no and say we don't bear them because saho will be bamu who sa no because you guys are dishonoring your head. That's the point that Paul was making. It's the person established to say the head covering in 1 Corinthians 11 no covering now all can was mean veil and kasa. But over the years, you know, yes, and back for no, you can't verse 3 could see verse 5 for now you jump to verse 15 and 16. Near Chilemu say, when you go for the if you 16 cry verse 15 when you go for the a trainer and man said and kataso.
Bashadak. I said I'd be able to answer. Una be jump because
okay. Anyway, we are major.
I mean, we have talked about a bit. So the point in Bible down is meant for us to sort of read and sometimes read through properly. You see, we skipping verses and okay, we no jump up with no kind we no say we it doesn't work. And sometimes, when you are reading the Bible, read it in your original language. In other words, check the words, whether the words that you're using there are the same words. Now we use it. The problem is that when you are reading English, now what you want to say, well, Bible was not written in English. It was written in the language. So check the background language and do due diligence. And so you come to a conclusion. Most of the conclusion that we have come is simply because we just want to shun or to refute one more church and so we just find verses and here and there and try to make an argument on it and go. No.
So in other words, you all kind of say our conclusion is right, but our approach to the conclusion has been wrong.
It's the problem. It's where the problem is. It's where the problem is. So I encourage us to say, better share chat text new.
me da say abusafo o text na yechia in 1 Corinthians na Jonathan waboy ya to yebo say I heard text no. The text is simply saying say oba kata utriso ena kata utriso na wo nyina no veil kataka lupso kata utriso with the veil fantoma kata so sa no wo kan ho ba wo kan bedru the verse your friend is saying 15 na say eno na ye hwe wo bedru verse 15 na the Greek word that we use to you know ese fakata utriso no eno nko is different. Your friend is saying or the we use. This is the Greek word that we use here. Parabolian. Now, parabolian ne echere clocking. A clock and as a covering. It is a covering way a different from the or the ama esrohonina. And this covering no. And Jonathan echere say, okay, free sro banina or kasafa se ubide veil and kasa egu nitreso na wakata. Na one here we some pakania ope entem na wadwane afri argument ho ne ade a ube ma ebida no credit da ho na waka me ma ebi na o jump up by verse 15 no na abeka atwi no o say enti what they enwina man se enkataso na most of the times no ye cast what the enwina man se enkataso a na ya conclude say onyankopon na di nwina man se enkataso, but that's not the conclusion the text is making. The conclusion the text is making is say society na e wo mu no ene ede amayen se oba eje ni trinwi bebre e hye na monyam nti onya bema enso ntwitwa ni tere ho saa na in society no ede amayen nti no society na de na ode amayen no ena oto aso verse 60 I say nanso so no mumma we enye entokwa ewo mu osmo for Paul kan also, but if anyone seems to be contentious, so be we have no such custom. Yeah, Christopher, ye nisa mrano say, etwa say, obema ana oba waba asore no, onfa bibi enkata nitriso. There be ye nisa custom no. I didn't know you use the word custom because at the end of no, Corinth for that there no more a war problem on home. Society no woman you muti na nitinwa kokwa na oye said a prostitute for a year Corinth Aphrodite bosom no intino say yo first say wo be yes ade no there ene na katawtiri so said the society ni gitum no yesa esan say wan yesa na say office e ferry there and as the society no ehunu say e ferry a ana denti na wonye the society no ehunu say e ferry katawtiri so na wo katawtiri so a wo hye ukunu animonyam wo hye mema animonyam na wo hye ukunu animonyam a wo hye Kristo so animonyam. So that's the point he's making there. Intino a man tia say ekwan befa so obema ni ukunu animonyam no say or cover ni tiri so we dey na Corinth for nye ne yasem na meka Corinth for bre no so it is obi ba that's on te sa asem yase a ene yen kan kire ne say yen churches of Christ, God mu no ye ni saa amane ye ni saa oha no into the ye pain so no saa head covering you know any society into a society mu no yen apply this idea and I also be able to question my member so ye society mu no yen ka say oba ekata ni tiri so na chese obu ni kunu Debbie. And come for no could be enough for a be enough for phone be because it be a society now woman wanya sa omo no be look down upon the person. But in society bia na eno so hu ni sa. Iti the establishing in ne na mo bi ate asense head covering na war 1 Corinthians no na ye society no Corinth for no omo custom omo niema bia na omo ye enti sa niema na omo ye no eno onkobusa ho question yen bi nti they don't apply to us. They are clearly cultural issue, cultural significant. Into no yen society mu no apply nti say obi sorry no twen den say Bible say so kata ntri so da bi verse 16 say so obi ewo sa asem no so obetwen ho den we have no such custom, nor do the churches of Christ. Yen Paul minisa custom no na sa so na churches of Christ for so any sa custom no enti no ese yehu sa de no na yehye no enso menhwe question we na ansana makoso oseden. How do we apply this passage today, since the cultural significance of head covering has changed dramatically in most Western society? How should modern Christians apply the underlying theological principle of authority, headship, and sexual distinction mentioned in the passage? So the point is that society, page in the modern world, no, saying that baby, society na wo saying no mubu obi a woso yoba ana obi oyoba yes woso yoba obi oyoba saying na person man ye omo saying na person man ye omo o dey say in the society no say oh yeah oba yi no ho a there's no society in our world today oba yi no ho no dress basa eye ombebo na baso Debi ameka say emema mo hwe me a mo aware no se omo airport omo emrante no omo gi omo ani no omo pie kwa no omo pie kwa omo pema omo yi omo yi ne ho na kama be do time obo ware a sa ma no akwa wi asem okan o se ye de omo di mutu ye de omo di mutu nti o ma ye de omo di mutu ene o ma ye de omo kofie ware o nti no society nankasa kra indicate to us say omo pese oba onsiesie no ho yi ondi ne ho ni it is how oba warfo na se wuyi ho basabasa na ho enti ye na nya wuti a obekwa so na mu se de wuti address ho oba warfo na sabio umpoke nyina egu abonten na wo mu a wotwa na unya esa the first one got oba warfo I didn't know mokasa because fi say ngwase e de ma wukun. So that's how we need to apply it. Enti ye pain so no say na oba oye owarfo say na ye pese hu no na onim me kan bi abadwen say okay de wa ware nkwa there be de on ware yes so no kai say wo kopɛ yere e wa sorry bi mu a na wo so be kompadufo ma me fo mpadufo no ko busom pacho ababa wo mu hu ne say na osite ni suban te say ne ho siesie te say ma me fo no be ka kire oh ge we de me nte no asɛmbɔ ne bia na nso ne ntade hyemu no asa enye papa o te sɛ ma me fo no kasa pet na ɛsɛ sa aba no yi ne ho basa no hyentale ntiatia na wa mu ne ne sire mu gugu aha it no society nankasa will tell you the efata ewom sɛ onyankopɔn asɛm na kan kyerɛ sɛ yɛmfa ni ewu ade ensiesie yɛn ho 1 Timothy 2 no the verse 9 no ekro no it was say a man siesie omo ho yi nanso so no society nankasa frown on those things. How do we apply it? We apply it in a sense oba enkoda no ho akuku ni debi amekasa asem no me na baako a na oye afijase he man he afijase he ni ne 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 a kind of say, Sama Henny. Cobrencia. Men are not Cobrencia say, you need a baku could be away fear. Now, Otakas has some parliament. I say, a kid and Betty assassin on Nimia, more like the cousin, Barbie, and the cousin in any channel. And I did Cobrencia Abbey Busham Penity, the cousin on Penaso. Into the Bia Shemo, a Bushan, semi Bahua, Namameno, as a person Cassetia, Cobrencia and a Cobrencia say, if you are Mamma Canchram, if you are Yanyesica Phobibri, Nancy the Yan Sambobusia. If you need Oba Kukunibia of fear. In other words, Oba a drew a will hold more and tries to own ube quine and I'm kind of saying, ube bone. Koko a kukunin a bone and ya Oba and ya I will go barn there or quine name a bunny bone there. Say a bones are there to Koko a kukunin. It's way Oba now to fear. Check his animal. It doesn't matter, say. So ukunu and a disikaba. So when I also udisika kesi ebefi on mo. Try and know, say, you have a husband. Na ukunu and no nemo ni munyam. So obano. So mum put the key authority with you. But the so for because oh sabe. Even though what dream no, yes, we now control them man. About the two for because sabe. Share. Ono wa sorry atlan ni kunu so de obi enhu enti eno kra na wo try so be what is right no na bia wa show that family no na wa soa abusuan na to ku utiri so no so wo peja ho bebre abonte so for beka say wa fra atlan ukunu so enti no matter what say do nyame aye no ye ne sa bra ho ase she ukunu ase enye da bia na no ukunu be ya adwene it's true tada mboko tada mwe but always try so we are calm down. Now our baby problem woman if we are and but say a futu kakra betumi esua every hono no. Obi say what you're saying about the hair is very true. There's this male Manchester United fan who hasn't cut his hair for over a year. And his hair is a lot. Yeah, that's the point. Indeed, the near can say, Sauka say, nature, it's about it's not true. Because you say, Obama, say, Ujina, ebe dosu be brave. So I say, enti nyo Yankopon na di nwi no ema obema se ne de no so no oba de enye ketwa ana bema de enye ketwa no oba de enye kese nyame anye ne sa omumu bia obeja bia bitrin be grow so I say bitrin be grow enti no eya na ya safo no bi ka say oh there be Yankopon na di nwi na ma oba trin adose so mfanye ni trin kata so that's not the text. That is not true. Ubia bemo obao se ujina ni tire na wantwa ebefu mo so to the make can say no se wo ma utiri nu gina eye society no na eka se bema enyina utiri se atwa oba gina ma ne yefe ma onye ne tiri bebre ne ngu awa mu se de ya minu anoma santifo eka no no that is the text Bible no eka ede achre. All right. Who said Leroy say also is verse 13 or the context of praying in this chapter in the church or praying in our homes. Oh, this is more like the church setting as no okay. So as I say, so the church setting no so we'll be shame na mo bompire a man mungu muveil no because that is the cultural thing a woman. Inti monye said a obi besramua. If there's a messenger, obi ba mumua, enye no. say mumua de ana say munya what is right. Inti cover your hair. Inti it's a cultural thing. Ana current for no. Emma me Doris chere ene ejabunsu. Ene de Italy na mude maduru. Buon lavoro. Ma me chow ma Doris de ejabunsu. Ene de Italy kasa na mude echia me. Said the TBA and Miss Mijimus say buen lavoro. All right. We a jabunsu. Ma Doris be or say a jabunsu and Madame Doris are watching from Italy. Good evening, brethren. Thank you for watching, Mama. Leroy question we maintain for an uncle say, hi, can you please explain prophesying in the context of this chapter? I mean, which one was the verse? I think that it was verse 4. Every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered. So praying, prophesying. Anytime you use this word, biano, a preaching and some no. So Leroy, a young text in the Hebrew. So a preaching in your friend is saying biblical sense, preaching a prophesying. It's yeah contest, you can't prophesy and I say or shank or shed the beba dachi debi. Prophesying a preaching. It's prophesying ena monhwe ade bi mo amohwe no monhwe ade bi one King James version no so obi a wo old King James no so wo kan na hu word bi a ye de th asoso a e kire say continuing into in normal English no obeka prophesying but or the th the soso e wo old King James is the same thing e kire say person o kire say a present continuous. A present continuous. It is our verb, no, prophesying, no, trophino, prophetous, nature to foretell event, divine, speak under inspiration. Oh, in the preaching, no, exercise the prophetic office. It prophesying, in this sense, no, we are. Speak under inspiration. Obema o preachy. In the preaching wasem ena Leroy na oka ewo eye verse 4 no. Inti so who preaching na ohona prophecies eye prophesying, which means preaching. Inti no, you are speaking under inspiration, under the influence of the Holy Spirit. That was it. I think some of you question Nina and no. Yes. We the MC now conscious we should zoom in. Mama Yvonne say good evening, brethren. Good afternoon, brethren. Okay. Thank you very much, all of you. Yada must say mo joining na money is the erade aduma. Next week, sign aba mufie na yenemo abetwa eye Q&A live at Chariot TV. Already shout so Jibre. Now stay with us. And next, we want to talk the menu here. 1 Corinthians 11. No, the text na Yeshua verse 3. No, eba BC verse 16. Ekasa about head covering. Now say head covering no ufri sro beni na oka veil ho asem. So do ti ode entoma kata utri so. No so wa anya saa ene twa ho bo ho kokwa na nye te se omo muti current krom ha no se do musi twa mutri ho no na se ye wo fere so be saa de a ene ade na ho kata utri so because kata so na mfa munyam ma ukunu no ene o kire se saa enkata so no even nature kra kan kire wo se obema ejira ntiri bebre ya na nature na ye kan na ye say a society no a utim no omo ankasa ɛna bɛkyerɛw sɛ ɔbɛrima tiri dɔɔso a ɛnyɛ fine ontwa nti saa nneɛma no na yɛkyerɛkyerɛ mu na yɛsɛ ɛyɛ cultural issue nti ɔsomafoɔ sɛ Paul say verse 16 saa cultural issue no yɛnni bi ɛwɔ churches of Christ mu churches of God mu nti no sɛ obi wɔ problem a ɛyɛ ɔno no problem nti sɛ woba asɔre na sɛ wo so wobɛbɔ duku a it's up to you but yɛnni nhyɛsoɔ biara sɛ kyinkyina a ɛtwa sɛ wobɔ duku ebinom kora tumi kɔ sɛ ɛyɛ sɛ wobɔ duku fitaa there be yɛnni saa culture no nti that is what the text is telling us nti yɛnsua bibi mfiri mu sɛ ɛnɛ yi no yɛntumi kɔka nkyerɛ obi sɛ ɔmmɔ duku anaa ɔnkata ne tiri ho because we don't have that culture. However, sɛ woyɛ sɛmpakani na wɔkyerɛ saa adeɛ wei a susutu mmirika bra 15 no ɛbɛpɛ text no kyerɛkyerɛ kyerɛ ma nkurɔfoɔ hu sɛ the text is talking about hair covering all right ɛyɛ ne ti hair covering asɛm but once paa no ɛwɔ the verse 16 no sɛ yɛba Kristo mu a saa adeɛ wei na yɛ cultural practice of Corinth but Kristo nsɔre mu no we don't have such custom yɛnni saa ahyɛdeɛ no nti no yɛnkata yɛ tiri so nti no menkɔgyina 15 ho answer saa question ɔmo saa meme da kɔkɔɔfoɔ na ɔmo dɔm na asisi fam no ɔmo taa pɛ question no busa paa mo mmaa no ɔmo nkata ɔmo tiri so no but it's a cultural issue and we don't have such custom in the churches of God. Thank you so much. Jonathan was my colleague on the show today, and my name is Shadrach Opong. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next week.